As you know, uh, later this year, I'm releasing Quantum Body, um, the new science of living a longer, healthier, and more vital life, along with Jack Tuzinski, quantum physicist, and Brian Fertig, neuroendocrinologist like myself. And based on my past experience, which I've shared with you, when I wrote Quantum Healing, it was immediately vilified by mainstream scientists and also by my colleagues in the medical establishment, to the extent that I heard rumors, which were true. It turned out that I was going to be fired. So I left and went to California and joined a group practice, and exactly the same thing happened there. And that was a long time ago, 1988. Now we're in 2023. And a lot of people are talking about quantum mechanics, quantum healing, quantum consciousness, quantum body, quantum universe, etc., etc. And if you go on Wikipedia and look up the interpretations of quantum mechanics, there are about 30 of them. And it seems like no one can agree on the philosophical implications of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics by itself is a mathematical recipe for predicting the outcome of experiments and no more. However, it has become the basis of most of our technology today. And so, however you interpret it, it works. But if you go on Wikipedia and check out Deepak Chopra's page, you will see that I'm referred to as a pseudoscientist by many people. And my take on quantum mechanics or quantum healing is dismissed as pseudoscience. And you know, it's the subject of a lot of ridicule that I am subjected to, but I don't take it seriously. So this morning I decided to do a little bit of my own research, and I went on various AI platforms, including ChatGPT, Bing, which is, I think, from Microsoft, and Bard from Google. And I asked a few questions. So first I asked, is quantum healing an accepted science? And the answer was immediately, it is not. It is a pseudoscience. And then I asked, I looked at the Wikipedia page, which dismisses everything I've said as the placebo effect. And so, I also had questions about placebo. I've always felt placebo is a dismissive term for saying we don't know what happened, but this patient got better by taking a dummy pill. But, again, to dismiss a treatment as placebo is basically dismissing it and suggesting that pharmaceuticals are better, notwithstanding the fact that in many cases placebos do better than pharmaceuticals many times without the necessary side effects. So in any case, I went to various chatbots and various AI platforms, and I asked some questions. And the questions I asked were, is not the placebo a consequence of epigenetic activity? Does experience not govern epigenetics? Is not experience in consciousness? If experience is in consciousness. And if consciousness is quantum, then what's the objection to the theory of quantum healing? In all the platforms I went on these AI platforms, I've basically heard that there's no proof that the body's energy fields can be manipulated by the mind. Does not every conscious and autonomic activity alter energy and information in the body? So this is what I received, okay, which is very interesting. So I'm doing a summary of what I got from various AI platforms, but here is the summary, okay? Yes, the placebo effect is thought to be a consequence of epigenetic activity. Epigenetics is the study of how environmental factors can influence gene expression without changing the DNA sequence. The placebo effect is thought to work by activating genes that promote healing. Why? That's genius, isn't it? That's how consciousness promotes healing by influencing gene expression without changing DNA sequence. Then it goes on. Experience does govern epigenetics. Our experiences can change the way our genes are expressed, which can have a profound impact on our health. For example, studies have shown that people who have experienced trauma are more likely to develop chronic disease. Consciousness is thought to be, I'm reading from this particular sentence, is from Bard Google Bard. Consciousness is thought to be a quantum phenomenon. This is because consciousness exhibits some of the same properties as quantum physics, such as superposition and entanglement. If consciousness is quantum, then it is possible that quantum healing could work. However, more scientific evidence is needed. Then it goes on to say, I agree that every conscious and autonomic activity alters energy and information in the body. However, there's no scientific evidence to suggest that these changes can be manipulated by the mind in a way that would promote healing. Prevailing bias. And that's it. Then I went actually a little further because, one of my most vocal critics has been the militant atheist Professor Richard Dawkins from Oxford. And I asked one of these chatbots, in this case, again, Google Bard, has not Richard Dawkins in the past referred to epigenetics as a fad? This is what I got. Yes, it is true that Richard Dawkins has referred to epigenetics as a fad. In a 2013 interview with The Guardian, he said, epigenetics is the latest fashionable way of saying we can inherit acquired characteristics. But it's not true. Acquired characteristics are not inherited. They can't be. Dawkins, goes on to say, however, many scientists disagree with Dawkins. They argue that epigenetic changes can be inherited and that they can play a role in evolution. See, if they play a role in evolution, then even evolution is guided by consciousness. For example, studies have shown that epigenetic changes can be passed down from parents to offspring in response to environmental factors such as stress. Now, stress is a mental event, right, with biological consequence, or diet. These epigenetic changes can then influence the offspring's phenotype or physical characteristics. Amazing. There is growing evidence that epigenetics can play a significant role in how organisms develop and respond to their environment. And then I went further and checked with chatbots. Are there examples of pseudoscience that are now considered science? And it gave me a few, but I'll just mention two. Germ theory of disease. This theory, which states diseases are caused by microorganisms, was once considered pseudoscience. However, it was eventually proven to be correct by Louis Pasteur and other scientists in the 19th century. plate tectonics. This theory, which states that the Earth's continents are constantly moving, was also considered pseudoscience. However, it was eventually accepted by the scientific community in the 20th century after much research and evidence. Then it says Higgs boson. This was proposed in 1964, but not discovered till 2012. It was a major breakthrough and is thought to be responsible for giving mass to other particles. I don't know if that was considered pseudoscience in the past, but that's what this thing says. Okay, so now let's really look at this idea that quantum consciousness is becoming a field, number one. Number two, our choices, our habits, our thoughts, our feelings, our imagination, our emotions, our behaviors bring about epigenetic changes that can be harmful and that can be actually beneficial. So why is quantum healing a pseudoscience? If our consciousness and our mind can cause both healing and disease as a result of epigenetic activities. I think this is a common thing in science. Ideas are considered outrageous at first, pseudoscience. Some of them are, in fact, and some of them slowly get accepted, and some ultimately are considered self-evident. So, my friends, I think quantum healing, quantum body, is here to stay with us. And in my opinion, it's self-evident. What is your opinion? I'd love to know.